On today's episode, I had the ultimate boss lady join me. She's someone I have known for years. She's very successful in business. And on today's episode, she's going to share her story from losing her business during COVID to finding herself in the throes of alcoholism and basically, you guys, losing it all and getting it all back. We're going to get into it. It's going to be a good one. Grab your coffee and let's get into it. I would like to welcome Ofelia Ferere on the show today. Ofelia, thank you so much for coming and doing this with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I know, I'm so excited. You have such an amazing story to share, and I can't wait to touch on it because I know you've been through some crazy things over the past few years. But first, I'd like to just go back to how we even know each other.
That's so funny.
Because it actually took me a minute to think, how do I know Ofelia? Like, I feel like I know you from different things.
Right? So, well, it's funny because when I think about you, I go, fajas. The Colombian fajas.
Yeah.
Like, we would do all these networking events and stuff. And I remember, you know, it was always about how to look good and feel good. And it was kind of like that kind of beginning, I remember. Mm-hmm. That's how I remember. And then buying clothes. And I still actually have a couple of those pieces. It's so funny.
That's so funny. Yeah. That's how I remember. I think we had a mutual friend, Claudia.
Yes. Claudia.
We had a mutual friend. I remember I had a boutique in my house.
Yes.
When I was first starting out, and you came to shop at my house.
Yeah.
And bought some pieces.
And that's what I'm talking about. I was going through all my clothes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Janine's dress.
That's so funny. Yeah, I remember Claudia, the way she described you when she talked about you was like, oh, I have my friend. She's so beautiful. You have to meet her. And then she described you as a plus size model. Tell me how you got into like plus size modeling.
It's so crazy. You know, it's one of those things where you're at the place at the right time. And at the time I was doing makeup, makeup and beauty has always been my thing. And so I go to a makeup job, and the girl was a plus size model, mm-hmm. and I was doing her makeup. And the photographer that day said, you know, have you ever considered plus size modeling? There's a niche for plus size Latinas. They're looking for them. And I go, I used to do modeling when I was a teenager, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I had kids really early in life. And anyway, as God would have it, she'd snap some photos. And the next day I was modeling for Macy's, Mervyn's, Levi's, Neiman Marcus.
You got right into it.
I was the trailblazer, if I must say so myself, for the highest paid Latina plus size model in the Bay Area. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I was represented by like the Halverson Model Management, Ford Models New York, and then, you know, just...
Oh my gosh, I'm familiar with Halverson. My ex-husband's sister was with Halverson.
Yeah, Tracy.
Yes. Yeah, right by Valley Fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
so she would get me all the jobs here in the Bay Area, and then there was cast models in Sacramento. So yeah, it was like I was represented by all of the top agencies, and I did that for almost a decade, where it was kind of like feeling good in your skin, right. Which is also really cool because it healed a lot of childhood wounds of like never feeling good enough, never skinny enough, never this enough, right? And so that part of my life was really interesting because it helped me to feel good in my skin. Mm-hmm. That, wow, you know, I might not be a size 4. I'm a size 12, 14. That was considered plus size back then and still is. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Then it was now as plus size has taken a whole new life of its own. But so, yeah, anyway, it helped cure a lot of insecurities as a child, feeling never good enough. And so then, plus size was just a huge part of my life. Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, because I was going to say, how did you feel identifying as a plus size model? Because they weren't saying, hey, come and be a model. It had to, you know, they had to add the plus size.
Yeah. It's interesting because I would show up at these go-sees and, you know, 75% of the girls showing up or 80% of the girls are stick thin and Victoria's Secret models, right? Like super, like just not the plus size. And so there were moments where I had to fake it. You know, I was like, I'm good enough. I'm here because they called me to be here to try out. And then it got to a point where I was so confident that when I could hear the giggles in the background of these girls or guys too, kind of like, what is she doing here? Because it was still a very new thing to have plus size. I would feel like, don't let it get to you. Guess what? You're probably booking more jobs than they are because the competition is stiff for size 4s.
That's
but
right.
it wasn't for 12s and 14s, and I was the highest paid. So I was booking all the plus size jobs while they were, shooting each other for the 1 or 2 jobs they would get. So it was kind of funny.
Do you think that that industry has changed?
Oh my gosh, has it changed? It's just the other day I had someone say, when I said, "Oh, did you know I was a plus size model?" Because she's, someone who's a plus size girl. And she goes, "Yeah, but what size were you?" And I'm like, "I was 12, 14. Oh, that's not plus size." So now the industry doesn't consider that a plus size anymore.
Wow.
So that's interesting too, to have come from the generation of the Cindy Crawfords to now a whole different generation, which is, I don't know. I mean, the bigger, the better. I don't know. Feel okay in your skin. There's so many ways to look at that, because I got thin because of health purposes. I had a back injury and I was in chronic pain. So I was willing to do anything it took to not feel that pain again.
Right.
So I decided to lose weight. I just had to. And I think physically, mentally, everything, I knew it was time for me to come back to who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
And how did you feel once you did that? Did you know what I mean? Did you no longer identify as the plus size model, and how did that change?
I'm still proud to say it. And so it's kind of funny because people go, you were a plus size. And so that part is really interesting, but I still am very proud. I'm still really proud to say that was a huge part of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's part of you.
It's part
for
of me.
Sure.
It cured, like I said, so many insecurities, and it paid me a lot of money.
Oh my goodness. Now, are you still in the modeling industry at all these days?
I mean, how old are we?
I mean, you look like you could be, okay?
No, I mean, I've had some really fun moments of like, hey, would you like to model this? Because we have a category for over 40. So I've done some pretty cool things with like Charmosa's swimwear. She got the cover of Sports Illustrated with her swimwear, and I modeled a few pieces for her, like her one pieces and stuff. But nothing full time. Now it's all about business. It's like I have taken on a role now of business owner, mentoring, women empowerment. So my goal now, and I think my calling has shifted.
Right.
I don't care so much to be in the limelight, but more so to be used.
Right.
Because I do feel like, like we go through things in life and they bring us to where we are. And now I not only see myself as a mentor, but also as a teacher, and also as a testimony, for things that can be accomplished.
Right, especially and going through things as part of it. It sucks to have to go through things, but it makes you so much more powerful, and then you can give so much back to everybody because what you've learned by going through those things. I know we're going to get into some of those today. Now, you spoke about being a businesswoman. Now, even back when I met you, this was, I think it's been like 12 years ago.
It was in my spa days, for sure. I had my first business.
Yeah, and you were the first person that ever talked to me about like having like business mentors, and you have to network, and you would talk about how you had
that's so cool.
Yeah, you said you had these women's networking events for business, and I was like maybe more shy or antisocial at that time. I'm like, oh no, I would never go to something like that. I see things so differently now, and I think, man, like Ofelia was really on to things back then because you were trying to encourage me, because I had my business at the time. Like, you need to network,
right?
That's
and
so you had just like such smart business acumen even back then.
Thank you.
It's just amazing. And you had a business that was very successful, OSPA.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me about that business?
Yeah, OSPA was another really cool time in my life too. It was the plus size modeling was coming to an end. I had to kind of retire from that. That was funny too, because I remember showing up to some of these go-sees with like 17-year-old girls that looked like me, but they were like half my age. So I was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. And plus I have a business now. So I focused my energy on the new business, which was OSPA. And I actually started it during the downfall of the economic, pressure that we had in 2008. And so there was a lot of people saying like, wow, this is really risky. How can you do that during such a risky time? But for me, it felt right, and I tend to be one of those people that like, when I feel good about something and I walk forward, someone wise, as you said, when we talked a little bit about mentoring and women's and networking, things like that, I'm one of those people that was told from a very young age that old people are wise, listen to them.
Yeah.
And so I've had that gift of listening really to people that I value. And one man said to me once, and he said, you move forward. If the door shuts, that means it wasn't meant to be. But if it opens, keep walking forward.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. So the door was open and I decided to open the business. And anyway, yes, I had OSPA. It was 12 years going into it. Everything was going great. I mean, as far as business goes, I had a great team. We were all so tight. And then boom, COVID happens.
2020.
And the beauty industry, I mean, gosh, I was one of the 2,000 small businesses that didn't survive. I didn't get any government assistance from, the government. And then you have, I don't want to talk politics, but, you have people getting their hair done that are in politics.
Yeah.
And that was hard. That was really hard for me to see. And I hated California for it. I was so mad. I was like, how dare they go get their hair done? And here we are closing our businesses, but yet another state is totally open and okay. I mean, it was hard.
I imagine. I remember you tried.
We tried.
You tried everything. I remember gift cards. I did like some sort of gift card thing.
Everything.
I'm like, oh, whatever I could do to help.
Yeah,
I tried to promote it for you guys.
Luckily, I have beautiful, loyal clients that helped me out. It wasn't like scraping for food or anything, but gosh, there were some dark times. I remember there was the day where I was like, how is this going to work? I was going through a divorce. I was paying my own mortgage. I had to pay for, and then you get legal advice that doesn't coincide with what you're supposed to be doing. I ended up getting, sued by the landlords for back pay. I mean, everything becomes such a hot mess. And you're trying to figure out what the right thing to do is, because I am an ethical person. I consider myself to be an ethical person. And you want to do what's right. But nevertheless, we had to close. And that was tough. It was
tough.
So hard for everybody.
So after 12 years in business?
Almost 12 years, yeah. So and the money coming in, right? So then there's that shock, that money factor where you're making so much money. Not so much money, but what I'm trying to say is you're making an income, right? And then I found myself really jealous of all these people that are getting to go stay at home and work and still collect a paycheck. Right?
The non-entrepreneurs.
Right.
Right.
And then I'm like holding this resentment towards them, like, this isn't fair. Like, this isn't fair. And so there's a lot of forgiveness that has to happen. There's a lot of that. And then my husband and I had just got married right before COVID. Thank God. We were about to go on our honeymoon, and he says, and he goes, there's something weird going on in Asia. We were going to Bali. He says, I think maybe we should wait, to see really what's going on. So that postponed it another month, and then another month, and then boom, COVID hit.
Wow.
So we were newlyweds, and then that all happened. And during COVID, I sold my house. My father died. I had to put my dog down after, my beautiful French Bull Mastiff that shed a tear with me. Put my dad's dog down, had to move my mom, sold my house, moved to France because my husband said, you need to move to France with me. And I was just lost. I lost my identity. I lost my father. I lost my best friend. He was essentially my best friend. And so all of that combined into such a short amount of time, you break, So OSPA is now closed, and now it's like, what am I doing?
Right.
Oh, some may say, oh, poor you, you're living in the south of France.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that, because on the inside, you're hurting.
Yeah,
you're
it's all optics.
I gotta fix this.
Yeah,
Hold on.
it's fine. It's all optics.
Right.
From the outside looking in, it's like, oh, boo-hoo, you closed your little spa, and I'm sure you're getting assistant. Everyone has assumptions, but you know what? There's one thing about when you get knocked down, it's already hard enough. One thing, two things. What usually breaks people is getting knocked down, and then you haven't even tried to climb back up, and you just down again and again.
God, you know what? Again. When you just said that, it's just like it resonates completely, because there was moments where I was like, I don't want to be in this position. And when I say this position, I'm talking about I started drinking a lot. I remember the first day that I took the sip of vodka because I was in a moment of desperation. And it was, I still owned my house, and it was still during COVID, and it was the closing of the business. And I remember thinking, I just have to sell my jewelry. Like, I'm just going to sell my jewelry. Like, screw it. This will get me by, like for the next 6 months, because at this point we didn't know where we were.
Right.
And I go, you know what? Let me just have a shot of vodka. I was going to go meet one of my clients who was a pawn shop owner.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I have a lot of jewelry. Let's get rid of it. Like, it'll carry me through, and maybe I won't stress. And I was like, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. I was going to meet her at 12. And I'm like, I'm just going to have a little shot of vodka. And I'm like, take the edge off. Click, something clicks. So I take the shot of vodka, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. I feel better. Oh, I feel better. Oh, I feel better.
Shoot.
Then I take another shot. Before you know it, I had taken 4 shots, and I pass out. I wake up, and I'm like, oh, shit, the day's over. Oh, shit, I forgot my appointment. So I never sold my jewelry, good thing. But something psychologically triggered in my head that's how I knew the days were going to go on faster, easier, and I could escape my problems. And I started drinking every day. And I was one of those people that got caught in that whirlwind. Through it all, then boom, 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 father passes away, da-da-da, all the other things. Storm. The perfect storm. Moved to France. I'm trying to keep it together. I'd get sober. I'd be like, no, I still got this in control. I'm still in control. And like you said, you're coming up for air, but then something knocks you down.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, I've gone through a lot of crap in my life. And a friend said it best. She goes, I thought you went through a lot. And I didn't know you were going to have to go through all that to get to where you are now.
Oh, man.
It was wild.
Now, let me ask you something to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Your relationship with alcohol prior to that, social drinker?
Totally. Yeah. It was like my cousin said it best. He's like, you could be the girl that escapes for the weekend and goes to Puerto Vallarta and then has the time of her life and parties on the, the dance floor, but then would come back to reality and go to work, right? And have a social drink with your girlfriends. But if I'm going to be completely honest, my father is from Argentina. He was an alcoholic. So drinking at the dinner table was acceptable when you're 2 years old to have a sip of wine. That's just normal. And I remember thinking in my head, oh my gosh, I repeated the same pattern. I would think it was cool to let my kids have drinks when we would go to Mexico. Order a beer, son, no big deal.
Yeah.
You're 18, it's legal here. And then not realizing that it runs in the family.
Yeah.
It is a disease, and my mother's side also, after doing all my research now, it runs in my mom's family too.
Yeah.
So it is a disease. And, now I'm totally sober. But yeah, social drinker on the weekends, never really thought it was a problem. I mean, I'd get feisty, some would say, okay, feisty Latina when she's, I'm already a feisty Latina. So then you put alcohol in me, I get a little bit feistier. So it was always like the little ongoing joke. Like it was funny, oh, there goes mom, or oh, there she goes. But not to where it got.
Right. But it's an important lesson to realize, though, because I think so many people just assume, oh, I'm fine drinking. I've always been a social drinker. I've got it handled. They think because maybe for 25 years they've had no problem that they perceive with alcohol. They don't respect it, thinking that could change.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it can't happen for you. It can change. The perfect storm. The
perfect storm. And sometimes, I would never want to point fingers at anybody or try to assume anything about people. I would just say, why do you drink? Because if you're drinking to, what I have found in my research and my own personal relationship now with alcohol is I wonder if you're drinking to take the edge off. Or after a long day of work, or, because you're celebrating something, because, it's like the go-to for that reason, then it's ask yourself why. Are you drinking it to enjoy and it's no big deal? Because that's what we call a normie. That's a normal drinker, and that's fine.
Exactly.
That's great. But it's so hard. Somebody said, like, we have big balls to be sober in a world where it's glorified. You know what I mean? the first thing you do when you go sit down to eat is what? What would you like to drink?
They give
And
you the
there's
drink
your
menu.
alcohol menu.
I know.
What if I don't like drinking?
Exactly.
You know?
Even if you don't have an issue, but what if you didn't ask me like, what do you want the caviar right off the bat?
Right.
Like, why are you asking me for the drink?
Why is it called spirit? So it's like there's so many weird things, right?
Yeah.
Like, why is it called a spirit? Why do people's moods alter? My tenant in France, that we have a couple apartments in France, and she's a famous DJ from London, and she doesn't drink. And I said, that must be really hard, because in a lot of cultures they offer you shots of, as a thank you for DJing. And she goes, oh, I have to make an arrangement with the girls and say, bring me water, because I can't be rude.
Yeah.
So then I go, it must be really interesting. She goes, oh, I see the wallflowers turn into the dancing queen. I see the guys that are insecure turn into jealous, raging assholes. Like, she says that she could see the night and the people change.
Oh, I bet.
And I thought that was really interesting, because
Yeah.
she gets to see it from up here, like the whole
Bird's eye
like
view.
a picture. I go, that's really crazy. And now also, like, being in a beach bar or something, I'm like, oh my gosh, that girl's crazy.
I actually enjoy it now.
It's kind of fun, right?
I really enjoy it, because for the same reason, like, I've always thought of myself as a social drinker. I still don't consider myself as someone who has a problem with alcohol. But when my mom passed away, but the reason I drank changed. So I think that's so important that you pointed that out.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I identified it pretty quickly. But I'm like,
Okay.
you know what? I'm no longer drinking to go have fun and be the fun Janine. I'm drinking because I don't want to feel this pain.
Yes.
And this is a problem.
That's it.
And that was it. Then I stopped drinking. But only once you stop do you realize that it becomes an issue for everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like you find people sabotaging you or doing that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, but so I think that's an important thing that you brought up, that I think that I would love for people to resonate with, is you need to be really aware of why is it that you drink.
Yeah.
And understand that can change just because you've never had a problem.
Right.
So at what point did you realize, like, oh shit, that this is a problem?
When there was an intervention.
Oh, it really?
Literally. I mean, I'm laughing. It's a nervous laugh. It's not like I'm proud of it laugh.
No, that's okay.
I tend to laugh when I'm nervous.
Me
And it's not like I'm laughing at the situation, because it was really scary. I mean, I was drinking to the point where, gosh, it's so, there's shame attached to it, for sure.
Of course.
There's shame attached to the fact that you can be amongst other people that have lost relationships with their children, have lost all their money, their jobs, they become literally homeless. And I remember going into rehab and thinking, I haven't lost anything. I still have my husband. I still have money. I still have a business. My kids still love me. And that's your denial. And another woman said to me, not yet, honey.
Right.
And I thought, ooh, that resonated with me, because that's the thing. That flip that happens can happen to anybody, and it will progressively get worse. That is a statistic.
Right.
Your body will suffer. And I'm not talking about just being fat.
No.
I'm talking about inflammation.
Yeah, internal.
I'm talking about all the internal things that happen, besides the obvious things like not remembering what you did the night before, or, all of those things. You are putting a poison in your body, and for me, it was literally my body shutting down. I was suffering from severe inflammation of my body. I had gained 30-something pounds just from drinking. I'm sure there was bad food choices, and I was always somehow got to yoga drunk.
Oh, shit. That's crazy.
I know. I would go to yoga drunk sometimes, just because it's so engraved in me to work out as a child. My mom was obsessive with working out, but I always worked out. But I would do these things, but the inflammation of my body was hurting. I could just feel it. It's just, your body just starts to shut down. And so when you look at other people, you can point them out. You're like, that if she just gave up drinking or if he just gave up drinking, more than 75% of his problems would probably go away.
No idea. I have those conversations and thoughts all the time because of what I do as the nature of my business. But so from the time that you took that drink, those 4 shots of vodka, to the time that you...
Oh, gosh. Okay. I would say 3 years.
So it was like a 3-year bender.
It was a 3-year bender of like trying and then
getting something else,
getting some, like trying and not trying and then giving up and then trying again. And then last year it just spiraled to the point where one of my best friends said to me, she's so intuitive, and she just said, you mentally and physically gave up. It was like, because you just, like you said, the perfect storm. And it was like, oh no, I'm not done with you yet. Now this. And then last year, something traumatic happened in my family. And I just broke. I broke and I didn't care. Drinking was my only solution to feeling better. And that was it. And it just spiraled to the point of having to go to rehab. And that's what happened. I went to rehab.
So you went to rehab, and then how did that work out for you in terms of, because you had to get sober and then you get clarity and you have feeling back.
Yeah.
What was that process like?
The rehab part was amazing in the sense that like you do get to check out, and it's a roller coaster ride, because I had an amazing therapist that I got to work with, and she made me go from childhood to adulthood and, forgiveness, and kind of like we learned a little bit of everything, a little bit of AA, a little bit of smart recovery, like all of the tools that you need as a human being to overcome this addiction. And so it was a little bit of a roller coaster ride. So it took a few times of me drinking and realizing that it wasn't for me, that I wasn't going to get anything good out of it.
Right.
For me to finally go, I'm done. Like, this is stupid. Like, every time I drink, like, I just feel shitty and I do bad stuff.
Yeah.
So what's the
comes
point?
Out of it.
So what's the point?
Yeah. So did you go to rehab in the U.S.?
No, I went in Mexico, and it was a little foo. I call it a foo rehab. I would call it like the Malibu of the Lindsay Lohans for Mexico. Like, there was yoga, there was green juices. We had a cook, and it was beautiful. And I met some amazing people there. And I would recommend it to anybody who's going through something like that. And if you don't have the means to do something like that. I mean, luckily I have a wonderful husband who is supportive in my family, and they were okay with me being gone for that long to get it together.
Which was how long?
I think I was in and out of that rehab from like July to November.
Wow.
And I checked myself in so that I would actually make it to my daughter's wedding.
Wow.
That's pretty telling, because I screwed up and got really drunk and didn't make it to my daughter's wedding shower.
Oh, man.
That sucks, and that is where you go like, God, if that wasn't enough, but that, maybe to me that was my bottom. Someone else, it could be worse. And for someone else, it might be something less. I don't know.
Right. Everybody has a different rock bottom.
Yeah.
But
and that was so shameful, the shame attached to like not showing up and knowing that this addiction was more powerful than going to your daughter's shower, or even being there for your husband, or, your children. It's a powerful addiction.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, the fact that, that I was able to give all that up and not care just for drinking, that to me says a lot. It's just a dangerous addiction.
It is. Now, how long have you been
sober?
Free?
No. I mean, without like one drink, it's been, I would say almost 90 days or something like that. But my journey started in June, of last year. So I have drank like almost nothing since June, which shows.
Yeah.
I immediately took off the weight. My clarity is better. The gifts that God opens up for you because you're clear-headed, right? You start, I've always been a believer. So God has always been my number one. So that part wasn't hard for me to understand that there's a power greater than ourselves that is willing to take the wheel, So I I'm just more clear in my prayers, bolder with my requests, and then now seeing the business come to fruition now, having a better location, and I call it, I'm forming my better team now, or, I don't know, not clowning on anybody who doesn't work for me anymore, but I'm just saying, like, knowing that you have intent, that is so powerful.
Right.
Yeah. And that the dreams do come true. And
now, how do you feel about your ability to handle life's problems when they come at you now? What's different?
What's different?
Think?
You know what? I would honestly, I'm going to answer that real honestly. It's forgiveness and forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
Because like I said before, there's a lot of shame attached. But when you have forgiven those who have done you wrong, whether it's your parents or, deep-rooted issues, working them through, knowing that I don't have to pick up a drink because there's something else going on. It's not the fact that that girl just did something to you or someone cut you off the road and you almost got in a car accident and now you're going to go drink because you have to take the edge off. No, it's usually something deeper that's going on that makes that the issue, right? So when you have dealt with all of them, and there's always going to be new resentments as life goes on. There's new resentments.
That's life.
And so that's one of the things is learning how to forgive and knowing that. My dad used to say this all the time, and I used to hate it. One day at a time, honey. And it's not like he was ever in AA, but that's a huge AA motto is one day at a time. And I used to be like, Dad, stop thinking that way. You got to be more positive. But now it's true. Every day you get to wake up knowing that it's a new day, and you have the choices to make it a beautiful day, a miraculous day. Expect miracles. And when, like today, I had a flat tire. Was not expecting that. I was thinking I was going to go home and get all pretty and look at, I'm like, and then all of a sudden I'm like 3 hours later, I had a flat tire and I'm, $600 out.
But
who cares?
Here you are.
Who cares? Like now I get to take things with a grain of salt, and my children have been so amazing. The right people come in at the right time in your life, for sure, to either teach you something, elevate you. Hence, being here with you, I feel honored too. I'm like, oh, this is fun because I like hearing you. I like your message, and so when this collaboration to me was like really cool and really special.
Yeah, it makes sense for sure. Now, do you feel like a good support system within your husband, and like, are the people around you like sober people? Are you okay interacting with people who drink?
I'm okay now. At first it was tough. At first I'd be like, I don't know if I can hang out with that person, because I know they'll be drunk. Or, it's kind of like a baby learning how to walk again, like, am I okay with that? But no, now I have no problem. Like if somebody's drinking around me, it's like no big deal. Luckily, one of my daughters is doing a hard 75 challenge, so she's drinking, doesn't drink. My other daughter doesn't drink, Gabriella. She's like so not into it. So I have a good support system.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So tell me about your life now. I want to back up a little bit because I want to figure out. I want to close the gap between how did you end up international, because you are kind of like a dual, like you live in the U.S. and in France?
Yes. So when I moved to France, I sold my house and I had no connection to U.S. other than friends and family. I had no home, nothing. And then, so I moved to France. My husband and I end up investing in another apartment together so that we have that. And so I lived there, and that was tough, trying to build a business in a country that you don't really speak their language and stuff like that. But it was fun. I mean, there was fun moments, and then there was alone moments because he's a pilot. So I don't get to see him a lot, full time, I would say.
Right.
And then my daughter married a Mexican from Puerto Vallarta, and then I moved my mother into a care home in Puerto Vallarta. My parents wanted to retire there, and the cost of living is so amazing there. So she lives like a queen in this beautiful care home. I mean, compared to the prices in the U.S., it's insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So they take care of her. She's got to cook and all that stuff.
So, but you have some children here in the...
All my kids, well, my two other children. So my son and my daughter live here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the opportunity of this business came about. And I was like, heck no, don't want it. Like Monica, who owned it, I started my career as her receptionist, which is so funny, at that location.
Oh, wow.
And then her husband, Rudy, passed away unexpectedly. And then she decided to do part-time retirement and said, I'm selling my business and I want you to buy it.
Wow.
And it is like the perfect location in Los Gatos. It's right next to Double D's. It's on the corner.
Okay,
it's like
yeah.
really awesome. I made a lot of changes to it. And I do remember passing by in France and looking at, I mean, I'm like research and development kind of girl. I'm always into the foo-foo stuff and getting facials. And I go, if I ever owned a business again, it would look like that. And I remember telling my husband that. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And it was like a bunch of tattoo kind of shop-looking kind of chairs with chandeliers and stuff. And I did. I duplicated it. I did, yeah. And that's what it looks like. And so now I own a nail salon, which is connected. It's like a Suite A, Suite B, but I connected them both. And I bought the two businesses, one last year and then one this year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what is the name of it?
It's called Beauté Bar, so the French way, Beauté.
So you brought that French
the French
flair to
the
Los
French
Gatos.
concept, yes.
Wow.
So, and what I love about that is, you know, doing a lot of beauty treatments in other countries, this is what I noticed. I noticed that in the Silicon Valley, we're go, go, go. How fast can you get my pedicure done? How fast can you do my nails?
So true.
When you're getting your hair done, while one's processing, the other one's getting a haircut. I mean, it's always like nonstop, right?
Yes.
So you go to France, and let me tell you something. You get treated like a princess.
Oh, wow.
That is one thing I will say for sure. Whether it's your nails or your pedicure, you do not leave until it is perfection.
Wow.
From the detail down to how you are served. What would you like? And I'm like, oh, sure, I'll have some tea. And then all of a sudden you have like a chocolate presented with it and a cookie, and it comes in this beautiful glass. And
It's
you're
an
like,
experience.
it's an experience. That's it. It's an experience. So for me, it was like, you know what? Not only do I want quality work, but I want every single person to experience that.
Right.
I want women to feel like a princess again. That's what we're missing. We live in the Silicon Valley. Everybody's multitasking. Everybody's on their phone while they're having a conversation, while they're watching TV. I mean, it's like, can we all stop for a second? Like,
you know
seriously.
how many times I have had, I'm ashamed to admit this, that I have a pedicure and I get so into whatever I'm looking at on my phone that they're done.
Yes.
And I'm like, did you massage me already? She's like, yes, I did. I'm like, oh, well, shit.
It's so true. You didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, you're right.
So you paid for something that literally you'll look at your toes a couple times and you paid $60 or who knows how much your pedicure cost. And then you're like, damn, that was shitty, or that sucked, or who knows what you came out of feeling, but it certainly wasn't pampering.
It wasn't an experience.
That's it. And so I want to remind people that you really never know who you're going to bump into. You know, I'll never forget one time my husband says, I'll be right back. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I forgot something at the store. Okay, like 45 minutes later, right? I'm like, what the, where is he? Like, what's taking him so long? And I'm like, okay, relax, Ofelia. Like, it's okay. I have like trauma from my ex-husband.
Yeah.
Like, he was like always like, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, oh, and he goes, oh my gosh, you're never going to realize who I ran into. And that was the thing. He was always like, so what? You know, like, who cares? Like, let's talk to them. Let's enjoy them.
Yeah.
Even if it means we're going to run 5 minutes late, so what? But we are so caught into ourselves and we're so, selfish that we think we got to get to this place at this time. We got to do blah, 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 that we never really stop to even recognize the person in front of us.
No, you're so right.
And so for me, it's like bringing that back and bringing the fact that those problems and that task, guess what? It can wait.
Yeah.
And that problem will be there tomorrow.
Right.
So stop and enjoy what it is you're doing right now. And right now you're going to pay $60 for a pedicure.
So you better enjoy it.
And I want you to enjoy it. And I
Yeah.
want you to walk away going like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I felt so good. My headache's gone. I'm more relaxed.
You know what's interesting is, wouldn't that be a better thing for us to turn to?
Right.
When we are having those down moments, or
Right.
when life is getting us, in the trenches instead of the bottle.
It's like self-care, right? Yeah. I mean, how many of us, like you in fitness, know that if I worked out, I'd probably feel better.
It's a guarantee.
And I yesterday had a moment where I was like stuck in this like thing of business, right? Going, I feel paralyzed and I don't want to go work out. And my friend, who is not the motivator, she goes, go to yoga, you'll feel better. I know you'll feel better. And I forced myself to go.
And how did you feel?
Amazing.
Exactly.
Afterwards, it's like, yeah, like it, but sometimes it takes, your village.
It does.
To help you out
it does.
sometimes.
When I was reading your bio before having you on, I saw that your quote that you live by or that you like to say is love yourself better.
Love yourself better.
And I love that. That's going to be the title of this episode, because love yourself better. And I think that, before going down those roads of vices or things like that, you need to remember that, like, you know what? No, I'm not treating myself right. I need to love myself better. I need to put the phone down.
Do you know, so Brandy Chastain, you remember Brandy Chastain? She took her shirt off. A lot of people don't follow
from the soccer
food, but she spoke at NCL, which is National Charity League for young girls, and my daughter was a part of it when she was little, and she gave the best speech. She said, here's my brother, and he scored, I think, 1 goal or something. And he's like, I'm king of the world. And he's like loud and pompous and bragging. And she scored 3 goals in her game that same day, but missed 3. And she felt like she just needed to go into her room and sulk. And so her speech was, how come we are raised as women to feel humble and have to be quiet and tame because that's what ladies do, or all of that stuff. And so her message was, no, be proud. And when I took that, and it resonated with me, which might have been why I was like, you need to network because you're amazing and people need to know how amazing you are. Yeah. If you're not bragging about yourself, who is?
Yeah. You're so right.
It's, you know what I mean? Who's going to brag about you?
It does.
My husband, who, is French and lives in France.
Right.
I need to say how amazing I am. You know, if you come to me, Janine, I will give you the best facial ever.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that. And I love that love yourself better.
Yeah.
I think that everybody who's watching this episode if they can come away with one thing from this episode, it would be that Ofelia Ferere. Ferere.
That was a good one.
Oh, I was close.
I think that was good.
Tells you that you need to love yourself better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's just like the life mask, right? They tell you to put your life mask on first.
Yeah.
Before you can take care of anyone else.
Right. You can't pour from an empty cup.
You can't. Yeah. So what does that mean for me? It's a selfish way of thinking, many may think, but you're actually doing a service not only to yourself, but to your family, to the people that are looking up to you. And if you've taken on that role of mentoring, which I love taking, a diamond in a rough, what's it called? A diamond in the rough or something like that. Rough. Is like taking somebody that I know has talent. Look at these gorgeous nails, by the way. These are Jewel. And she works for me, and that's what I could say is like, she may not have the clients yet, but I see the talent. I can see through people, and I go, you are amazing. And everybody has that talent. You have to tap in.
Yeah.
And I love mentoring young talent. I think that's my role now, is to take this new team that I get and show them what it's like to be happy at what you do and to give back. And to know that, as a service provider, we have a big role. Sometimes we're therapists, and sometimes we just get to perform a beautiful facial or make someone look beautiful.
Yeah. I love that. Your energy definitely gives that off to it. Always has. I've always felt like we said, you told me you have to get out there. You're selling clothes in your house. You got to do something.
That's so funny. And now look at you. I'm like, this is so cool.
But I love that. So what's next for the business? What do you got going on with the business right now?
Yeah, we just had our grand opening. I just cut the ribbon with the mayor. That was really fun. I'm building my team. We do a little bit of everything. We do, eyebrow, the tattooing. I study in Europe to bring all those things. People go, do you do microblading? I'm like, yeah, like 20 years ago. I mean, like seriously, that's how long I've been doing tattoos. We have hydrofacials. I own 2 of them. We do full service nail salon. So right now I'm building my perfect team, my dream team. And I'm being very picky, which is really cool. It's like I really want these amazing women that have the talent and that understand my vision, which is important because this is my vision and I want it to really just spread. I mean, and I dream big now, so I want a franchise. I want to, tell people how getting sober and being clear-minded is important, how your dreams literally, I saw a saying the other day that said something really cool, like 1 year of being sober is more accomplishing. You can accomplish more in 1 year being sober than you can in 10 years drinking. And it's so true because it bogs you and you start to think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And, being clear-headed, I am a testimony. I can tell you, I've done more this year than I have in the last 4 or 5 years.
Same.
Really?
Exactly.
Because you don't drink.
No, I stopped drinking in June. June 26th, I took my last drink.
June 26th of last year?
Yeah. But I've accomplished,
we're around the same time. Okay.
I've accomplished more in that time. And I didn't say I was going to stop drinking. I just said, I'm just choosing not to drink right now.
Yeah.
I was really weird about because I felt like if I said I'm not going to drink anymore, for one, that someone was going to hold me to it. And for two, that I would be admitting that I had a drinking problem, which I don't feel that I did, but I feel that I could have.
Right.
Like it was going down that.
No, I totally agree. It's, I struggle a lot with some of the things that I learned too, because I don't want to put a category on it or a label.
Right.
It's kind of like saying I'm on a diet constantly and all you do is think about freaking food.
You know what? Exactly.
I can relate to that.
Exactly.
Because my mom was the diet queen. It was like low fat this and whatever was going on in the 80s or whatever. It was like I was a part of that.
The grapefruit diet.
All we're going to eat, honey, is low fat. And I'm like, okay, whatever. She was just so funny like that. But anyway, I mean, it's the same thing. I'm an alcoholic. Well, then the more you think about it, the more you want to pick up that drink.
Right.
So I tend to teeter, and that's me. No harm to AA or anybody or anything. Whatever works for you is the road you got to go down. So if that means going to a meeting every day, do it. If that means not hanging around with certain people, you can't hang around them anymore.
Right.
Because maybe it's not good for you. Maybe it brings you down. So I can relate to you to a certain level. And for me right now, it's just the times that I have picked up over the last few months, I'm not proud of it.
Right.
It just is like, why? Like, what did that do for me? It wasn't even fun.
Yeah.
So for now, like you, I just don't.
Yeah.
I choose to not drink.
I choose to not.
If I do someday, who knows? But that's not today.
Right. Not today.
Not today.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
This
was
you,
so
Janine.
fun. I feel like we could go on forever.
We could.
Because there's more things we can talk about.
You know what? There's so much more. I mean, when I was doing TV, it was all about how to teach women about skincare regimens and all this fun stuff. So there is so much to share.
Yeah, so this won't be the last.
Yay,
this won't be the last.
Good.
You guys let me know in the comments, what do you want to see next from Ofelia, because we will have her back on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode, and we'll see you on the next one.